To Build a Fire by Jack London. Quick revision, and this is video number 2, and we are going to discuss some more multiple choice questions, and together after finishing all the videos we will be prepared with more than 90 multiple choice questions for ISC semester 1 examination. Question 50. He noticed the changes in the creek, the curves and the bends, and always he noted where he placed his feet. What does this reveal about the man? He was most observant, he was not serious, he was imaginative, or he was hesitant. If you have read the text thoroughly, you will be able to answer this very easily. Now the right answer is option A. He was most observant, and I will quote the line from the text as well. Empty as the man's mind was of thoughts, he was most observant. Coming to question number 51 now. Once coming around a bend, he moved suddenly to the side like a frightened horse. Identify figure of speech, metaphor, hyperbole, simile or transferred epithet. The right answer is option C. It's a simile. Like a frightened horse. The comparison. Once coming around a bend, how did he move? He moved suddenly to the side like a frightened horse. Question 52 now. Which literary technique is used in the mention of concealed streams which never freeze? Simile, hyperbole, foreshadowing or onomatopoeia. Again, it's option C, foreshadowing. The concealed streams which never freeze are indeed a very serious threat, danger to the safety and security of a traveler. Foreshadowing. Next, what serious danger is posed by the concealed streams? When a man broke through, he could fall. When a man broke through, he could get very wet. When a man broke through, he could faint, or when a man broke through, he could die. The right answer is option B. When a man broke through, he could get very wet. Again, I am quoting from the text. Sometimes there was both water and thin ice, and when a man broke through, he could get very wet. So what is the secret to cracking these MCQs? It's reading the text thoroughly as it is possible for you. Next one, 57. In which direction did the man walk after he stood and studied the creek bottom and its banks? Well, the options are option A, right, option B, left, option C, north, or option D, south. What is the right answer? The right answer is yes, he decided that the flowing stream of water came from the right side. He thought a while, rubbing his nose and face, then he walked to the left. Right answer, option B, left. When was the day at its brightest? At 12:30, at 11 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, at 1 o'clock. Option C, at 12 o'clock is the right answer. Again, let me just quote from your text. Keep your book open, keep the text open and follow me. So at 12 o'clock, the day was at its brightest. When was he expected to be with the boys if he continued to move at 4-mile pace? 6 o'clock next morning, 6 o'clock that evening, 6:30 or 7 o'clock that evening. The right answer is option B, 6 o'clock that evening. Now, the 4-mile pace is also equally important. What was his pace? And I will also quote the line for this question. If he continued, he would certainly be with the boys by 6 o'clock that evening. So your text must be your best friend. What prevented the man from taking a mouthful? Ice around his mouth prevented him. His package lunch was frozen. He had dropped his food. His fingers were numb. The right answer is ice around his mouth prevented him. He tried to take a mouthful, but the ice around his mouth prevented him. This is the line from the text. What was wrong according to the man? He had left his dog behind. He lost his way. He had forgotten to build a fire and warm himself, or all of the above. Then he knew what was wrong. He had forgotten to build a fire and warm himself. He laughed at his own foolishness. The right answer, therefore, is option C. He had forgotten to build a fire and warm himself. Next, question 62 now. Let me just adjust. Yes. The man is unable to eat without a fire despite keeping his lunch against his body. What does this signify? The food is raw, the food is not delicious, his preparations are not enough to face this cold, both A and B. The right answer is his preparations are not enough to face this cold. He has overlooked a lot of things and he will have to pay a price for this. Working carefully from a small beginning, he soon had a roaring fire. What does fire symbolize? Source of life and protection, symbol of survival and life, symbol of human technology in harmony with nature, all of the above. The right answer is all of the above, because fire in this story is a source of life and protection, symbol of survival and life, and also a symbol of human technology in harmony with nature. So option D, all of the above, is the right answer. That man from Sulphur Creek had spoken the truth when telling how cold it sometimes got in this country. What literary device is used here? Flash forward, flash back, personification, or foreshadowing? The right answer is option B, flashback. Now, what is flashback? It is a break or scene of past events that writers insert to provide a background or context to the story. And what is flash forward? It is a break or scene in the story that takes the narrative forward in time from the current point of the story and shows events that are going to happen in the future. Now, in To Build a Fire, Jack London has used this literary technique of flashback, where he from time to time brings up these old men. In fact, that man from Sulphur Creek, to point out how this man, the protagonist of the story, overlooked and neglected all the pieces of advice that he had been told of. Therefore, the right answer is option B, flashback. Very interesting. Next, question 64, RTC. From here he got wood for his fire. Working carefully from a small beginning, he soon had a roaring fire. What was the usefulness of the first successful fire? The man melted the ice from his face, the man ate his lunch, the man cooked his food, or both A and B. The right answer is both A and B. The man melted the ice from his face and he also ate his lunch. Well, there is no mention about the lunch being uncooked or raw. Therefore, this is not the right answer. Option C is not the right answer. Question B, what was the effect of the fire on the dog? The dog was sleeping, the dog was barking, the dog was eating his food. The dog took comfort in the fire. The right answer is option D. The dog took comfort in the fire. And the line quoted from the text, the dog took comfort in the fire, lying at full length, close enough for warmth and far enough away to escape being burned. The next question now. The dog took comfort in the fire, lying at full length close enough for warmth and far enough away to escape being burned. What does this reveal about the dog? The dog's imagination, instincts of the dog, wit of the dog, or faithfulness of the dog. Instincts of the dog. Option B is the right answer. The dog is a symbol of instinctual knowledge. Next. What is the imagery in roaring fire? Olfactory imagery, visual imagery, kinesthetic imagery, or all of the above? The right answer is B, visual imagery. Next. What was the reaction of the dog when it had to leave the fire? Sad and sorry, satisfied, worried, both A and C. The right answer is both A and C. The dog was sorry to leave and looked toward the fire. This man did not know cold. Possibly, none of his ancestors had known cold, real cold. But the dog knew and all of its family knew, and it knew that it was not good to walk outside in such fearful cold. It was the time to lie in a hole in the snow and to wait for this awful cold to stop. Therefore, he was sad, he was sorry, as well as worried. Option D, both A and C is the right answer. The man put more tobacco in his mouth and started a new growth of yellow eyes on his face. Which literary device is used here? Simile, metaphor, personification, or imagery? Option D, imagery, visual imagery is the right answer. And then what happened? The dog broke through the thin ice. The dog died. The man fell through into a shallow pool after the ice broke. The man's fingers were numb. The right answer is at a place where there were no signs, the man broke through. It was not deep. Right answer, option C. He fell through into a shallow pool after the ice broke. How did the man react when he met with this accident and he was wet to the knees? He felt sick, he was furious, he cursed his luck aloud, both B and C. The right answer is he cursed his luck aloud, he was furious. Option D, both B and C. He was angry and cursed his luck aloud. Why? He had hoped to get into camp with the boys at 6 o'clock and this would delay him an hour. Why was he in such a mood? The accident would delay him an hour. He was injured. He was unable to get out of the water. He was careless. Option A, the accident would delay him an hour as discussed is the right answer. What was most important at that low temperature? Wood, tobacco, fire, or shelter? This was most important at that low temperature. He knew that much. And what was it? Now he would have to build a fire and dry his moccasins and socks. So it's option C, fire. Under which trees at the top of the bank does the man find some dry wood, firewood, and grasses? Pine, birch, fir, or mahogany? The right answer is pine. Option A. On top, under several small pine trees, he found some firewood which had been carried there by the high water of last year. Learn your text, follow your text, and everything is going to be easy. The blood was alive like the dog. Like the dog, it wanted to hide and seek cover away from the fearful cold. Which figures of speech are used? Keep this in mind, figures. Personification and simile, personification and imagery, simile and imagery, simile and metaphor. The right answer is personification and simile. Personification adds to the vividness of the description and makes it dramatic. And simile, you all know, is the comparison between two different things, and the comparison is direct, not implied. The blood was alive. Like a human being, the blood was alive and it is compared with a dog, as alive as a dog. Hence, personification and simile. When it is dash, a man must not fail in his first attempt to build a fire. 32 above 0, 50 below 0, 75 below 0, 80 below frost. C. 75 below 0 is the right answer. When it is 75 below 0, a man must not fail in his first attempt to build a fire. This is especially true if his feet are wet. Next. What had kept the man's heart pushing the blood to all parts of his body, removing his mittens, his lunch, running, or pace of 4 miles an hour? The right answer is option D, pace of 4 miles an hour. I already told you to keep this in mind because the pace is very, very important. The next one. What froze first? The wet hands of the man, the wet knees of the man, the wet feet of the man, or the wet nose of the man? Option C. The wet feet of the man froze first. The old men were rather dash, he thought, foolish, intelligent, brutish, or womanish. Option D. Womanish is the right answer. The old men were rather womanish, he thought. The thick socks were like ropes of steel, iron, horse, or dancing flame. The right answer is the thick socks were like iron, almost to the knees. Option B is the right answer. Next one. Which of the following is not an example of simile? Not an example. The moccasins' strings were like ropes of steel. The blood was alive like the dog. The thick socks were like iron, almost to the knees. It was his own fault or instead his mistake. Now, which one do you think is not an example of simile? By now, all of you have understood the meaning of simile. Yes, you have chosen the right answer. It's option D. It was his own fault or instead his mistake, not a simile. What was the man's own fault or instead his mistake? He postponed his journey to feed the dog. He should not have built the fire under the birch tree. He should have traveled with his boys. He built the fire under the pine tree instead of in an open space. The right answer, option D. He built the fire under the pine tree instead of in an open space. You have it mentioned very clearly in your text. But before he could cut the strings, it happened. It was his own fault or instead his mistake. He should not have built the fire under the pine tree. Pine tree is important. He should have built it in an open space. But it had been easier to pull the sticks from the bushes and drop them directly on the fire. Next one. What was the effect of the man's own fault or instead his mistake? The snow fell without warning upon the man, the dog, and the fire. The branches of the tree broke. The dry grasses became wet, or the snow fell without warning upon the man and the fire. Option D. The snow fell without warning upon the man and the fire. The right answer. What was the reaction of the man when the fire was dead and there was just a pile of snow? Shocked, happy, stared at the spot, both A and C. The man was shocked. It was like hearing his own judgment of death. For a moment he sat and stared at the spot where the fire had been. The right answer, option D, both A and C. Well done everyone. It's time to wrap up today, but do come and join us once again for video number 3. To Build a Fire by Jack London is indeed a lengthy story, and not just a lengthy story, but a story where we have various areas to discover and learn. Therefore, don't miss video number 3 and kindly check the description box for all the links. Bye. Take care.